government wants to force children as young as 3 to learn about sex and gender identity. So massive support for Kim Isherwood, who chairs the campaign group Public Child Protection in Wales. And she's back on today to talk about what's been happening since we last spoke. Kim, it's a real pleasure to welcome you back. Welcome. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks, Richie. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's deeply appreciated.
Not at all. Now, as far as the legal case, as far as the attempts to take the government to court, where is that at the moment, Kim?
Well, at this moment in time, we've just lost our judicial review. The judge has said that there are no parental rights within the pieces of legislation we've brought forward. If we did have parental rights, they would be absolutely tiny anyway. So this has been a massive kick in the teeth for everybody in England and Wales. This judgment means we have no rights, but we are appealing against this. You know, we're not taking this laying down.
This is the thing that really irks or annoys or drives people crazy. The idea that the mum, and listen, I'm not trying to court the female listeners. I'm not virtue signalling, but I mean this is a mother issue as much as anything else. Like that you shouldn't have the rights, Kim, to say, well, actually, my little boy's a bit young to be listening to that. I mean, if you don't know what's good for him, well, how could anybody know?
Well, this is it. They're saying we've got no rights, but who's the best advocate for a child? It's their parent. So if we have no rights, how can we exercise our children's rights? It's ridiculous. And we're actually talking about children from age 36 months, Richie. You know, we're not talking 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We're talking 36 months of age, you know. They don't know what colour beaker they want to drink out of.
Let alone know what gender they are or anything about same-sex relationships or anything like that. Remind our listeners, Kim Isherwood is on the line from the campaign group Public Child Protection Wales. You'll find them on Twitter and on Facebook as well. What are the sorts of things that 3-year-old children will be listening to and hearing, Kim, if this, well, we know this is going ahead. What are the most egregious things they will hear?
Okay, so the most dangerous things of all is the gender ideology, and how this plays out in the classroom is the doctor guesses your gender at birth. There's this trusted adult thing they're teaching as well, where children are supposed to name their trusted adult, not a parent. And also, this is a massive thing that people aren't aware of. They're saying correct terminology for body parts safeguards. That is an absolute lie. You do not teach a 3-year-old about your scrotum, vulva, vagina, testicles, penis. These are words which, when accessed online, you will find porn. These are also words that paedophiles like to use to engage in conversation with children. It's very, very dangerous. But like I said, those are the 3 main concerns: the gender ideology, the removal from parents of being a trusted adult, and these words for their genitalia, you know? As they promoting a safeguarding where they got no evidence to support that.
Teaching children these terms referencing, sex basically, effectively, and you say that if the children go to look for more information on these things on their own, they're going to come up against hardcore pornography pretty quickly. Here's the $64 million. I asked you this, I think, back in April of last year. Kim, if it was me, I don't care how I'd manage it. And I regretfully, we don't have children. I don't care how I'd manage this. I would homeschool my child. What are you hearing from parents? Are parents speaking about pulling them out?
Yes, well, absolutely. Well, the government has given us 2 choices. They've given us the option to privately educate or homeschool. Well, we're concerned with that as well, Richie, because here in Wales, they go in for a big power grab of home-educated children as well. So they want everybody on a register, they want the parents' DBS checked, and they want these children accessing the curriculum regardless. So we're in a bit of a serious predicament here. But the schools have been emptied. I know one local authority lost 200 children when this first started. Before Christmas, Cardiff lost over 160 families from their schools. We're actually achieving something remarkable here. We got 21 out of 22 local authorities active. You know, the whole country is up in arms. We've united all sexualities, races and religions. We are becoming untouchable, and we are united on this common sense purpose.
Have you given any thought in all the time you've been campaigning against this as to why this is happening?
We know why this is happening.
Why?
There's no thought to it. I've got 10 years knowledge on this comprehensive sexuality education. It's sex positive. It's based on sexual rights, and children have the right to consent to pleasurable activities as long as it's voluntary and consensual. We've also seen an investment coming from Scotland into lowering the age of consent. So you'll find the details for that on the Feminist Declaration, 25th anniversary, section 14A and 14G. We're in a serious situation here, Richie. We really are.
Before we continue, I just want to remind the listeners about how to contact. The website you need to go on, English parents, Welsh parents, Scottish parents, Irish parents, you're going to need to know about this no matter where you are. It's publicchildprotectionwales.org. It's publicchildprotectionwales.org. And Kim is on Twitter. It's at Kimberley Tish. So it's at Kimberley, Tish, all one word. You'll find her. You'll find her on there. So there is a very sinister element to this as far as you're concerned then. People who want to get to younger and younger people.
Well, this is it. It's supposed to be for teenage pregnancies and STIs, but our comprehensive children, anyone in year 8 and above, is never going to access this. It's all for year 7s and below. So it's immediately, a 3-year-old, where's a 3-year-old going to get an STI from, Richie? It's insane. They go in for the younger ones, and the older children seem to be they're not caught up in it. So everything they say doesn't make sense. We've got the evidence to prove what they're up to, and it's just a case of exposing the truth rather than fighting the lie.
Do you think sometimes you're dreaming this, that they're even talking about the need for very young children as young as 3, to learn about sexually transmitted infections? This is not a silly question. I genuinely ask myself at times, am I actually experiencing this, or is Jeremy Beadle going to jump out at some stage and say it's all one big joke? This is crazy stuff, Kim.
Well, I don't think people understand that the reason how we know so much is because we're actually looking for evidence to prove ourselves wrong. We wish this was wrong. We wish this wasn't happening. But I think it's about time everybody faced up to it now. It is happening, and we do need to respond to it, like yesterday.
You made a very interesting point a moment ago, and I have seen some of this online. It has brought communities together, hasn't it? It's brought people from Muslim backgrounds together. It's brought Jewish people. It's brought people have forgotten their differences here, haven't they? And come together. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And if you've seen us outside the court, what a beautiful feeling. The children were playing as if they've always known each other. There is no division amongst us. We're all there in a common sense purpose. The media can't put a camera into our crowd, and they don't know if they're looking at a lesbian or a Christian. We really have created something amazing here in this country. We have a quarter of the mosques supporting us. They actually did an intervention on the court case. So we are achieving something incredible. The love in this country is unbelievable right now. We've got different class people, different races, religions. We're all just coming together, and we're just moving forward as one.
Brilliant news, this. Now, where are the leading child psychologists? Now, I've had on this programme a couple of years back, I had Molly Kingsley on, who campaigned very well on how lockdowns damaged children's lives and left children with problems. Now, I know Molly isn't a psychologist, but she's a child advocate. Where are the well-known child advocates, and where are the child psychotherapists on this? Because they must think this is bonkers.
Yeah, well, this is it. They're actually being censored and silenced. So we do have an expert witness on our case, Dr. Miriam Grossman, who is a child psychiatrist from America, who's been experiencing this for some time. So that's been completely overlooked. Anybody who's got anything of common sense to say, they're being silenced. Everybody's being censored on this issue. No common sense is allowed.
And it absolutely grates on me, this, because this is slam dunk. This is genuinely I spend a lot of time, I suppose, lecturing people that things are not black and white, that there are complexities. But there's no complexity here. Nobody should be talking to children as young as 3, let alone 7, 8, 9, 10, about sex, about STIs.
I think is a massive thing people are missing here as well. People assume that schools are places of safety. Well, actually, schools are institutions. And we do have a massive problem with institutional sex abuse, which we have never, ever addressed. And nobody wants to be having that discussion. Well, that's something I'm not keeping my mouth shut on. You might as well send the children to the Academy of Savile, as far as I'm concerned, because the only way you can prove to me teachers aren't getting gratification from any of this would be to wire their brain up so I could read it. I'm just not having it. I'm not happy about it, and it's not happening. These schools aren't places of safety, and it's about time we start addressing it. We're giving strangers, we're essentially giving strangers who's passed a DBS check free reign over our children, and they are protected then by the system that we believe to be safe. It's not safe. We need to be having these discussions, and we can't have these discussions if you're shutting the parents out and hiding things.
I was just going to jump all over you there, but you said it yourself, so I didn't need to interrupt you. I was going to make the point that teachers are subject to these background checks, the DBS. You mentioned it, but you say that doesn't matter. You say that it is inevitable that if teachers are speaking in these terms to children, it is inevitable that some of them will take some gratification from it.
Well, you only have to look at the most recent reports by the Independent Inquiry into Child Sex Abuse. Sex abuse in schools, I quote, is an open secret, end quote. That's what the documents say, with over 40% of children being abused, aware of it happening to other people. Now, what people seem to forget here is, when you're dealing with sex abusers, one of their tools in their toolkit is secrecy. You're not supposed to know they're committing these crimes. So the DBS is only ever going to pick up a conviction anyway. Let's look at convictions. What are we on? Under 4% of reported assaults that end up in convictions. We've got a terrible system that cannot support this kind of topic anyway, So those are the things we need to be addressed. And before we start bringing these sensitive topics into an environment which is conducive of abuse.
I'm going to agree with everything you said there. If I was teaching primary school children, as sure as you are there on our grandparents' graves, I would refuse to take part in these lessons, to speak to children that are not my children, to speak about these things. And I would invoke the unions. There's no way I could ever sit down with a child and speak about these things without feeling that I am damaging the child in some way. I agree with that. There's no way.
Well, that's it. So what we've got there is we've got a large proportion of the staff who believe there's safeguards because they've been told it's safeguards. They've been given no evidence for it. They've just been told. We also have a load of teachers, unfortunately, leaving the job. I'm really disappointed about that, We're losing good staff, we're losing good people, and it's a crying shame.
Again, you make a very interesting point. This is going on while the teaching profession is mostly losing its 10-year and above teachers, basically, very experienced teachers. I was listening to BBC Radio 5 Live this morning and yesterday morning, listening to teachers talking about why they're going on strike because of how underfunded education is, because of the pressures they are under. And it's the type of people that might very well be in your corner, Kim, who are walking away.
We know 68% of teachers don't like teaching sex education in general. That's a huge number.
Kim, hang on. Where did you get that from, the 68%?
Oh, that came from an article we read back in 2020. I can find the article.
Oh, listen, no, I'm not calling you a liar. I just need to know where it came from. Because if that's true, well, I mean, that's phenomenal, isn't it? That's nearly 70%. Yeah, go ahead.
It It might actually be in one of the sex education documents, actually. But yeah, so we know that anyway. But what's happening here in Wales, we don't have a teacher now teaching a sex education lesson. We've got something called the whole school approach. So no teacher is going to get away from this. It needs to happen in every single subject. So, you know, I don't think the teachers understand that they're going to get away with it. And they've been kept in the dark just as much as the parents in their defence, you know.
No doubt about it. It's 16 and a half minutes to the top of the hour. You're listening to Kimberley Isherwood. Kim chairs the campaign group Public Child Protection Wales. I've given you the website already. Get on there. 4 mums representing thousands and thousands of parents have tried to legally overturn the Welsh Government's plans to make religious and sex education lessons compulsory for children as young as 3. Kim, are there other courts, even outside of this country, that might give you and your campaigners relief? Are there other courts?
Oh, we are prepared to take this all the way to Strasbourg anyway, so that's what we want. We was not happy with the High Court in Cardiff. We believe the higher the court, the louder the message. So as far as we're concerned, this is just part of the process. You know, we wasn't even deterred by the loss. We expected it. We are, you know, we want to take this the distance. The world is fighting against this anyway, but the world needs to see that we are leading in this fight, and Wales is the country that's not going to put up with it regardless. You know, we're not going to roll over. So yes, we are hoping to get to Strasbourg Court.
Can I ask you about something else momentarily while I have you on? I was reading Dr. Katie Musgrave in the Telegraph today. She writes, as you probably well know yourself, she writes regular opinion pieces for the newspaper. And she's written one today it's pretty tough reading, really. It's about the isolation and loneliness of everybody, but she specifically talks about children in the article, about what lockdowns and the fear that was put into children during COVID, warnings and they could kill granny. And now children are, you know, scared or concerned or anxious about the cost of living crisis because their parents are struggling. It's been a rotten time for children, hasn't it, the last few years?
Oh, absolutely. And now, you know, how are we going to fix or support these children? Well, we just fetch sex into the equation, isn't it? You know,
it's horrible,
it just doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't, no. And can I ask you, in your own family and in your wider community, do you notice a change in the personalities of children and how children are communicating?
Well, in my own family and my own community, I'm very much, because I've been in this fight now for 2.5 years, I'm very much in a community. We're all very similar. We found each other. So we're all pretty much supporting each other. Our children have got a new life now because they're no longer in the school system. So I can only speak on behalf of the people around me. And we are doing okay, you know, but it's because we've removed our children from the system. We didn't subject our children to any of this. Myself, my son was going from a Welsh-speaking school to an English-speaking school during COVID. Well, I stopped him going to the next school because they were still wearing masks, and that would affect, you know, the change in language and things like that. So the people who I'm around, I'm with some common sense people that actually do put their children first. So I can only really give positives there, and that's simply because the parents really are going the extra mile to meet their children's needs. As for the wider population, I really couldn't say, Richie, you know.
No, fair enough. Good, fair answer. Kim, by the way, has qualifications in criminology and sociology, and as she said, she's been on this battle for a decade now. I want to give it's publicchildprotectionwales.org. Get on the website. Kim, just to finish up, if you want to leave parents listening to this afternoon with a message, you can take as long or as little as you need to do that. What message would you like to leave parents? Because as I said earlier, I don't think it matters. It's not exclusive to England and Wales. This is happening all over the world. What would you say to parents who might not be, you know, really aware that this is happening?
Well, the first thing I would say is in March 2017, all 4 UK governments adopted comprehensive sexuality education. We are all in the same storm. We're just in different boats. We have to unite on this. There is no two ways about it. This is not a Welsh problem, just as the lesson content is not a Scotland problem. We're all facing the same issues here now. I've been using this term, we start small and take them all. Come to Wales, this is where the war is at, So what happens in this country is going to set precedents for the rest of the UK. I just urge everybody to get behind this. This is the only opportunity the UK has had for the courts. So England was kicked out on a technicality. Scotland is nowhere near that at this moment in time. So I just urge everybody to get behind this. No child will be left behind. This is a UK fight. We have to do what it says on the tin. We need to unite this kingdom and change things for the better. This is doable. This is achievable. This is something that we can all actually do. And this will affect, this will make a dent in the wider problems in society as well. Because as you know, Richie, all roads lead back to the same place. This is very much an issue where we've all got to come forward, whether you've got children or not. If we stand back on this now, life is going to change forever.
Kim, brilliant to have you on again. It's publicchildprotectionwales.org. You can find Kimberley on Twitter. It's at Kimberley Tish. Great work. Godspeed to you, Kim, and I look forward to getting a positive update from you next time you're on.
Thank you so much for this. We really appreciate it, Richie. Thank you.
You're welcome. Not at all. Kimberley Isherwood live on Tuesdays. Richie Allen Show. The time is coming up for, it's nearly 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Why? Or at least I think I know why this is happening. But it's so insane. Yeah, the banjo says, where is the teachers' union? The teachers should get their heads together and rebel. Do you know the teachers most likely to say this is insane are leaving the profession at the speed of light, from what I can understand anyway. Brambo says the silence of the medical royal colleges, especially those of psychiatrists and paediatricians in the face of such barn door state-sanctioned severe emotional abuse is damning. Mind you, they have all sat on their hands during the entire scamdemic that abused everyone. Stephen asks, where would a 3-year-old get an STD, sexually transmitted disease, or STI, sexually transmitted infection? Well, a politician, a Hollywood movie star, asks Steve. I'll never forget when I interviewed the paedophile hunter people about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And I took, when I brought the gentlemen on, I planned on giving them a bit of a hard time. Now, not to be an asshole, like, no, not to go all grandstanding like so many of the idiots in the mainstream media. No, but I wanted to go after them on the vigilante side of things. But I found the guys who came on to be very, I thought they were very mild-mannered, they were very moderate, they were very approachable. And one of the things that shocked me more than anything was during the conversation they said to me that they flush out these paedophiles online using decoys. So a decoy would be an adult who goes online onto various websites where children might be using these websites, obviously social media, and the decoy would pose as a young child. And the guy said to me, Richie, we'll show you this, we'll demonstrate this, right? Once the decoy begins to reveal, once the decoy starts posting, the paedophiles come out of the woodwork. And it's a matter of seconds and minutes. And they demonstrated this to me, and I couldn't believe it. I did believe it because I could see it happening. I was stunned. Because I would have always imagined that the paedophile who targets children, who stalks children, that I would have always seen them in the minority. And I remember many, many years ago after David Icke had published a book, I can't remember which one, and he said, you're naive if you think the child predators are such a minority, he said. They, of course, are and remain a minority because, You know, the majority of people are not paedophiles, but quite a significant amount of people are. And that's astonishing to me. So much so that you'd almost be terrified to have a young child. To be responsible for your son or your daughter when they get to 9, 10, 11, 12, when they begin, you know, to be looking for the smartphone and the tablet and the laptop and all of that. Yeah. Brian says, if you want to be a different fish, you've got to jump out of the school. Isabel says, if parents have no rights, then parents should not be considered responsible and be financially penalised if the child isn't in school. Isabel says there's a paradox there. How can they say the parents are not responsible for the education of their children or for what their children should learn about sex? Well, if that's the case, then they shouldn't penalise families financially if the child doesn't turn up. And then Isabel links to a link about children getting fined, or parents getting fined, for taking children out of school in Wales. Yes, very good. Absolutely. Hi to Faisal, hi to Colin. Hi again to herself, who says, I disagree with you, Richie. I met a man who is the curator of a famous museum in New York City. We both missed the flight to JFK. We talked all night to catch another flight the next morning. He went through the religious conversion therapy and is now